And we're back.
Another episode. Road to Code.
Episode 2. Season 2, episode 2, huh? Cool. Yeah, I am Victor. I am one of the hosts to the Road to Code.
And I'm John, the other co-host.
And I'm Gerard, the other co-host.
That's right. The other co-host. Cool. Jonathan, let's kick off this episode with some merch.
All right. Here we are on the Road to Code website. All you have to do is click on the official merch. And I'm going to open this tab. And today we have...
Oh, we have a hoodie now?
New one right here.
What?
With the Road to Code logo on the back.
That is super cool.
Classic.
How many colors do we have?
If you click on it, we have a couple different colors. There's this charcoal, and then like a gray,
and then like a navy blue,
and a navy blue.
Oh man,
that!
Look at that. That is very cool.
Yeah,
I like it. So we got new merch.
Check that out.
Right.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. Very cool. All right. We also have a new way for people to provide us with some tips and donations if they like our content, right, Jonathan?
Yeah.
You can buy us a cup of coffee.
You could buy me.
You don't have to buy merch. You could just buy us a cup of coffee. If you appreciate our videos here, you wanna talk about how you get to that one, Jonathan?
Yeah. Let me share my screen again. So it's buymeacoffee.com/theroadtocode right up here. And just has a link to our YouTube channel. And you can buy us a cup of coffee.
Or buy us 3, 1 for each. That'd be kind of nice.
Yeah.
Very cool. I like it. So yeah, I mean, if you guys like our content and you just want to buy us a cup of coffee, that we would greatly appreciate it. Jonathan, can I plug something in?
Do it.
All right. Let me share my screen. So there's this little website that I was working with during the pandemic. The name is thinkster.io. And I created some videos. These are educational videos if you want to learn about technology. And they have this section down here called .net. You can go ahead and just click on that and just scroll down far enough to where you see my name, Victor Campos, and you click on that. And there are tons and tons of videos where I talk about creating a web API using ASP.NET and C#. And so there's several videos. I walk you through creating the project from scratch. We create authentication and authorization from scratch. We use the built-in encryption mechanism. We talk about all kind of good stuff. Essentially, this API is a real-world API that's modeled after the Medium website. And Thinkster, the folks over at Thinkster just called it Conduit as a clone. But yeah, it'd be really cool if you guys are interested in watching some of those videos. We do benefit monetarily off of this stuff, and we greatly appreciate your support.
Yeah.
Gerard, we have got some good stuff in store. What are we talking about in this segment?
Linux.
Oh man. So I think we have like a whole list of things that we want to talk about, but we're going to limit it just to a few things just to make sure that we're managing the content so that people can listen to it in a timely manner. What are we going to be covering?
We'll be talking about setting up an virtual environment, downloading a ISO image, installing Linux, learning the commands, the man pages or manual pages, standard input and output of the commands and in the terminal, redirecting those outputs and the errors, piping and aliases.
Wow, we got a show full of stuff today for Linux.
Sure do.
All right, well let's not have the kids wait any longer. So let's talk about setting up the virtual environment. First of all, what is a virtual environment?
It's basically a virtual machine on your actual computer. So you could run a Linux machine on your just computer, whatever computer you have.
Whatever hosting machine you have, right?
Yeah,
So when you say virtual, I mean, you're like literally talking about the opposite of a physical machine.
correct.
So instead of having a physical machine, which is the box, the monitor, the keyboard, the whole kit and caboodle, you're talking about something that just exists virtually, but feels very real.
Correct. So you
Wow.
actually have to give your your virtual machine a couple processor or
You
core,
got to
a
give it
couple
resources.
cores.
You got to give it resources.
Yeah, you have to give it a couple cores. You have like a hard drive, but it's just a file on your actual computer. And I learned the hard way that giving it 10 gigs is not enough. That is,
Oh, so you had to run through a couple of those, huh?
yeah,
Fun part about virtual machines is that you could always just make a new one too. Just
Yeah.
make a new one.
exactly.
Yeah. Get rid of the files and start up a new one. That is very cool. So what kind of software do we use for setting up a virtual environment? I mean, because it's a virtual environment and it runs on a Windows machine.
Mhm.
So I'm assuming that there's some kind of software that we're going to be using.
Yeah, it's called a virtual box, and you just install it on there, basically.
Okay. And VirtualBox is created by a company by the name of Oracle.
Oracle, yeah.
Yeah. You guys know what an Oracle is?
No.
I think it's funny because like a lot of computer terms, they use like Greek god names, or they'll use it's like very old ancient names, right? And Oracle happens to be the one with the one head and the multiple arms.
Oh yeah.
That's an Oracle. And so and it's interesting that it's an Oracle because if you think about a machine, right, the machine has like one monitor, but you can have it do multiple things, right? So you can go and browse the internet, and while you're browsing, you could be playing a YouTube video. You can also be browsing, checking out your bank account. So your machine is just doing all kind of stuff in the background, as if it had multiple arms, but it just has one monitor or two or three. How many monitors do you have, Gerard?
4.
So yours has 4 monitors.
Yeah.
So Oracle happens to be an appropriate name for a software company because that's how most computers operate. So just a little tidbit there. So you download this software, and then what? What do you do? Like you go and create a CD or a DVD and stick it into your DVD drive, and then the software picks it up automatically, or what do we do from there?
You just download a file, and that's basically the ISO image. You have to install it using the installer, and basically just like setting up a completely new computer.
So an ISO image is what now?
It's basically like a CD, but it's just digital.
a digital version of the CD. So not
Yeah.
only do we have a virtual machine, the physical machine doesn't exist. It exists as a file on your machine, on your physical machine. But you also have a file that represents the CD or a DVD, depending on the size, right? And then,
Correct.
so they call them ISO images. Very cool. And so I'm assuming that VirtualBox, or not virtual, yeah, VirtualBox from Oracle treats this ISO image as a CD when you load it.
Yeah.
Nice, very cool. All right, and then so you install Linux, right? So
Yep.
for the kids at home, what is Linux?
It's another operating system, just a lot more advanced, I guess I would say.
Okay, it's definitely different from Windows
Oh, way different.
and Mac.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And is there a particular company that owns Linux, or what do we got?
Ubuntu?
Yeah,
Uh,
Ubuntu makes a version of Linux. So
oh.
Linux is actually open source.
Mhm.
In other words, you can go and create the Gerard distro Linux if you wanted to. And you can go and put the R2C logo on there and create your own flavor of Linux. You just have to go and it's almost like going and buying a car from the dealership, but you tell them like, no, hold off on the shell. Just give me the engine, the transmission, and the chassis, and I will put my own wheels and my own seats and my own,
Body.
body of the car and everything. I just want the engine, transmission, and the chassis. That's all I want from you.
Whoa.
And you buy that, and then you just add everything else yourself. It's kind of the way Linux works. And I think that's a simplified version of describing it, but in a nutshell, that's kind of what you get. So you're working with you kind of hinted to what distribution of Linux you're using, right? You're going to be using Ubuntu.
Correct.
Yeah. Ubuntu's, say what now?
Tux.
Tux is a penguin. Yeah. Yeah. And so, yeah. Tux was a good name for the guy because he looks like he's got a tuxedo.
Yep.
All penguins look like they're wearing a tuxedo. Excellent. So you were going through some videos, and so what are some of the things that you end up learning through these videos?
Just using command lines in the terminal, basically.
And so is the terminal the only way that you can interact with Linux?
No, I mean, you could point and click, but I guess it'll be easier just going through the terminal if you know all the commands and all that stuff.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think in these first few stages, what you're going through when you're learning the terminal, obviously, the way that I like to imagine the way of learning these videos is, you guys remember as kids when you learn to swim? We took you guys, you went to the public pool and they just didn't throw you off the diving board, right? They just kind of had you stick your mouth in the water and throw bubbles, like
bubbles. Yeah.
Just because the whole thing was to get you used to having your face in the water, near the water, and not be afraid of it. And then to the point where you start holding your breath, so you dunk your head in the water. And those were all very simple exercises, right? Nothing that you can use in real life, but eventually, you got to feel how to float on water, how to swim through water, and then jump into water and go in and come out and all that stuff. So this first few sections of the videos are going to be going through some what may seem like some very elementary commands and things that you can most definitely do a lot quicker with a point and click in Windows than to type these commands. But as you start working through them, you're going to realize it's like, oh man, if I want to create 2,000 folders and each folder have 2,000 files, and that would take forever pointing and clicking.
Yeah.
Where with a simple command, it would just like in a snap create 2,000 folders and 2,000 files in each folder. And so yeah, so it's one of those things that the command becomes a very powerful thing. But yeah, in this first few sections, it's kind of elementary, it's kind of like blowing bubbles into the water as you learn to swim. And so yeah, it's kind of cool. How many commands, just off the top of your head, and there's no right answer to this, but how many commands would you imagine exist in a terminal, Beej?
Whoa. A bazillion.
As many keys as there are on a keyboard.
That's 26. Oh no, it's 102 keys. So, yeah, no, there's definitely a lot of commands in the Linux terminal. There's a lot of commands. So if there is a bazillion, let's just say that a bazillion commands do exist. You have to memorize them all.
Nope.
Then
Not
what's
at
the
all.
point of having a bazillion commands?
I guess you just learn the ones that you need.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, it's almost like
that's what I would think.
yeah. I mean, I don't think everybody would be able to relate to this analogy that I'm about to give, but let's just say in your garage, you have a complete tool shop set up, right? You have wrenches, you have sockets, you have 10 different types of hammers, you got, 50 different types of screwdrivers, just all these, tools in there, but you don't ever use them all at once, right?
Mhm.
You pick and choose which ones you use. And there's some tools that you use more often than others. You have that one tool that sits in the corner that's a sledgehammer. And it's like you don't use a sledgehammer to hammer a nail, but there is going to be that one time where you got to break down a brick wall. And the only way to do it is using that sledgehammer, and you don't break down that brick wall every day. But when you do, you have that sledgehammer. And that's how a lot of these commands work. You're going to have commands that you use every day, twice a day, or I should say every day, twice on Sunday, and you use them day in and day out. And so those are the ones that you memorize. And it's probably a dozen or so commands, I would say, maybe 2 dozen at most. But when you need to go and do something with a new command, what do you do to learn about it? How do you go and learn about how you use it?
Using the man pages
And
or
it would
manual.
the
Basically just
manuals.
the manual, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like they basically have documented every single possible command. And so you just go in there and you can actually search the manual. It has like its own little Google search engine, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So you can go and just kind of guess at what you're trying to do. And in the manual, the Linux manual, it actually talks about and it shows you exactly what it is that you need to do. And so yeah, it's kind of cool. Very cool stuff. There was something that caught my attention. It talks about standard input and standard output. Like, if you're not familiar with the Linux terminal, how would you go about explaining what is standard input and standard output?
Oh shoot, I forgot.
There was a lot of you absorbed a lot of
Yeah.
information. Okay, so I'm not even
That was like the beginning of the videos too.
Yeah. So essentially, the standard input is where the input is coming from, and the standard output is where the results are being displayed, right? So before monitors were created, the input would be these index cards or punch cards, and you would feed them to the computer, and that would be your standard input. And your standard output, how the computer relayed the result to you, would be through a printer. So it would sit there and print the results of you shoving in punch cards, so there was no keyboard. It was actual punch cards. Eventually they realized like, hey, we're chopping down a forest, and to create these punch cards and to print to the standard output, we have to come up with something better. So then they came up with the CRT monitor, which was basically a black and white, and you had I think it was 80 columns by 24 rows or 25 rows. I forget exactly what it was. And then they got the keyboard. So now you can actually type in the information, which would be your keyboard would be your standard input, and it would be how you provide those commands, right? And then the program would run, and then the results would show up on the screen. So that becomes your standard output. But the one thing that I thought was really cool was that you can redirect those inputs and outputs by actually taking the output of one program and using it as an input to another program. So if you wanted to, say you wanted to grab a listing, but instead of doing the standard output to the screen, you can say, send this output to a file. And so you would go and like direct the results to an actual file, and it would create a file. You remember that part?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how you would actually redirect, your standard input and whatnot. There's also the standard error. You remember that one?
Somewhat. I know it was in the same video.
Yeah. So if you typed in something wrong, then you would get the standard error. And the standard error essentially just goes to your standard output, which is your monitor. But there was a way to reroute or redirect that standard error, so that if you did run some type of automated process, and in the later videos, it starts talking about automating processes, it can redirect the errors as well to a file, so that you can actually keep a log of any errors that are occurring and whatnot. So yeah. And then they talked about the redirection, but they also talked about piping. Is that like plumbing pipes?
Maybe. It's just a one like line of things that you want to happen in like a certain way. It's crazy. It gets crazy. I mean, I'm still learning, and
Yeah.
it's a lot to learn,
Well,
but I like it. It's freaking awesome. It's like you just tell the computer to do like all these things like individually, and it just does it.
yeah.
You just type.
The whole thing about the piping, though, it's if you think about how the redirection works, right? You can redirect to something. So like, say for example, you want to use the output of one command as the input to another command, but at the same time you want to grab the output of that first command and you want to save it somewhere. You can pipe it. So you can go and send the results to two different places, to a file and to the input of another command. It's absolutely crazy. I mean, things that you would never imagine. I mean, whoever like came up with all this stuff, I was like, what the heck, man? These guys are like, they thought of everything. You know? It's like, does this thing make coffee as well? There's a command for that. So aliasing. When we talk about aliasing, to me, an alias is an alternative name, right? What was the whole purpose of creating aliases? Have you played around with that one?
I don't think I got that far yet. I don't remember aliases.
So you know what? Let's go ahead and share your screen. I want to talk a little bit about that one right there, because I use it all the time.
Okay. Sharing.
Whoa, that's a fire log. Or is that a fire hazard?
Both.
So let's go ahead and bring up your virtual machine and fire up Linux. Ubuntu. So this is a Windows machine, and inside that Windows machine is a virtual environment that is going to run Linux for us.
Whoa, Inception. Operating system Inception.
Oh, like the movie. Is that the dream inside of a dream?
Inception.
Wow, that's a very smooth flow on your machine. So go ahead and fire up a terminal. Whoa, was that a hotkey you used?
Yeah. He was very big on it.
What was the hotkey?
He was happy that he knows about it. It's Control Alt T.
All right. And then how do you close it? Same thing, same hotkey?
Control L. No, that's clear. I forgot.
All right. That's cool. Does it? Is it Control W?
Let's see. No.
No. Or Control Q? No.
No.
Nah, doesn't matter.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
so, okay. So one of the first commands that you learned was ls, right?
Yeah.
And what does ls do?
Just lists the folders in the area that you're in.
Okay. But the command ls, it actually has arguments that you can pass in order to change the output, right? So you can do like ls, remind me later. So you could do ls space dash, I don't know, dash s. And it changes it, right? Or you can do dash a. So if you do up arrow and then change the,
Oh yeah, I forgot.
and it changes it, right? So it
Yeah.
shows you other, other attributes. You can do ls dash l. So it changes the output. It's still the same output,
Yeah.
the same results, right? Because you're looking at the same files. But you can sort it, you can do all this stuff. My favorite way of using the ls is using ls-lart, L-A-R-T. And basically those are all the different commands that we just used. But I use lart because I want to be able to see everything.
Whoa.
But it's a pain in the ass to type in ls-lart all the time. And so instead, what I do is I use an alias. So if you type in alias space ls equals, and then inside of double quotes, type ls space dash lart, or lart, since you put an H at the end, and then press enter. So now when you type in ls, it's essentially aliasing it to use the ls. But by default, it already has it built in. If you type in ll, it actually has the dash lart. So, but yeah, I mean, these are things that are like, the aliasing is a very powerful feature that you can use to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And so what is the IP address on this machine? Go ahead and do a let's see, what is it? IP, actually is IF space IF config, all one word.
Oh, it's not installed. I guess I can install it now.
Oh, IF config. It's not installed.
Yeah. Let's see. Let me install it real quick.
And Gerard's now an operator on the matrix.
There you go. Oh,
All right. So the IP address is, what is the IP address? So it's 10.0.2.15. Let's go and open up a Windows command. So just go to your Windows, click on your little window on your lower left-hand corner and type in CMD.
Open up on a different screen.
Yeah, and then type in ping, P-I-N-G, space, and then type in that address, 10.0.2.15.
Ping.
Ping, P-I-N-G, yeah. 10.0.
Oh, num locks on. 10.0.
.2.15. Go ahead and press enter. So it's not seeing it. You must be using a subnet or let's see, how can we make this instead of using a pass-through, let's go ahead and shut down your virtual machine and let's change a couple of settings on VirtualBox to allow it to have its own IP address. And then maybe we can get a ping out of it. All right, so let's go and change the settings on that. And let's go to the advanced tab on your right-hand side. Share your clipboard. Go ahead and enable that.
Where? Oh,
Bidirectional. So this will allow you to copy from your Windows machine and paste it onto your Linux machine and vice versa. Drag and drop, you also want to enable that bidirectional. Go ahead and hit OK on that and go back into settings. And let's go to system. Oh, sorry, network. And instead of enable NAT adapter, let's go ahead and go to that. Go ahead and disable your NAT. Click on the disable enable network adapter. Oh, I'm sorry, enable it, sorry, my bad. Go ahead and change it to the attached. Let's change it to bridge adapter. And is this your wireless, the Qualcomm Ethos?
yeah, I think so.
Okay, let's go ahead and leave it on there. Go ahead and hit OK. And let's go ahead and fire it up. So what's going to happen is that it's now going to share the network card with what's physically on your Windows machine instead of letting it go through the operating system and use network address translation where it has a virtual network card. It's actually going to attach physically. So now the virtual machine is physically going to attach to your physical network card, and it's going to have its own IP address. And we should be able to ping it at that point. So go ahead and open up the terminal and type in ifconfig.
Sudo, right?
Yeah, it's going to be sudo. See how you have a 192.168. Now let's go ping that address from your command line. Nice. So now we're getting a response back from the machine. The reason we needed this, okay? Ping essentially receives a pong. So you ping a machine, it responds with pong, and it tells you how long it took and how long the response lives for. So now we can communicate from your Windows machine. We can communicate directly to your Linux machine. All right. But what we want to do is we need a terminal that can open up the terminal on Linux. We need that same terminal in Windows. The problem is that it doesn't exist in Windows. So we need to go and download this little program called PuTTY.
Got it.
And let's bring it onto the browser. And download the 64-bit installer. 64.8x86, yep. Let's go ahead and run it.
Should I view README file?
No. Fire up PuTTY.
This?
There you go. So let's go ahead and type in that address under the host name or IP address. Type in the 192.168.29.112. And go ahead and just open that. Network error connection refuse. This means that SSH from SSH is not enabled. So go ahead and hit OK. And go ahead and close this window. And let's go open up your browser and let's search for enable SSH Ubuntu. What version of Ubuntu did you download?
The newest one, I think it was like 20.
Okay.
This one.
So let's go see how you enable it. So open the terminal and you got to do the sudo app update, sudo app install. So you can just copy each one of those commands. Now you should be able to copy and paste.
No.
Oh no.
Oh, it didn't work, huh? Okay, well, that's a bummer. Well, the commands are not that big, so. So this is going to just update the local database of software, and it's going to grab the latest index.
Open.
And this will install the SSH server so that we can connect to it.
Do you want to continue?
Yes. Feel like a hacker yet?
Yeah.
You're in the system.
White hat hacker.
I am the system.
Whoa.
Okay, what else do we need to do? Let's scroll down on that.
Oh, yeah. Well, when prompted, enter password.
So go and check the system control status for SSH. Actively running.
Nice.
All right. Let's go and see if we can connect. You could just go ahead and do Q. And you could do a clear. And let's go back to the PuTTY terminal, see if we can connect to it now.
Oh, is it right?
I think so. I don't remember the address. You can just do ifconfig.
All 29.
9.
No, but on your Linux box, it'll be a different number.
Oh.
Oh, yeah, you're right. You're right. Sorry, my bad. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It is 22. Yeah, go for it. Except, so here, go ahead and log in as you, right, Gerard, and your password. So what is the present working directory? So you're on your home folder. So if you do an ls, that's you're actually accessing your virtual machine from your Windows machine. So imagine what this is where it becomes, you gotta kind of expand your brain a little bit, right? Because imagine your Linux virtual machine being a physical machine that exists at Jonathan's house. And you say, hey, I need to go run some commands. You can SSH into that machine and run the commands that you've been learning and manipulate the file system. So as you're going through the videos, you can use either the PuTTY terminal or you can use the Linux terminal, and they're exactly the same ones. Using SSH actually tunnels you all the way physically to the machine as if you're sitting in front of it with a keyboard.
Whoa. Mind blown.
Wow.
That's some pretty cool stuff, huh?
It's crazy.
So there you go. I wanted to add that little bit of tidbit to this video because it's something that they don't cover in those videos. You know, they're working strictly with Linux, which is cool. I mean, learning the Linux command is learning the Linux command. But if you go and do, like, say, for example, type in, let's go to your desktop. So change, do an ls again. Oh, wait, you got it right there. So CD to your desktop. And then just do touch, I don't know, test.txt. You see what just happened?
Whoa.
You can put nano, type in nano test.txt to modify it. Just put something in there, testing 1, 2, 3, hi, whatever. And then go ahead and save it. You could do a Control O to save it, press enter, and then a Control X to exit. And then go and open it up in the Linux terminal. Do a nano in there. So there you go. You just controlled the file system from your Windows machine. Kind of cool, huh?
That's crazy. That's crazy.
No, it's phenomenal. It's absolutely phenomenal.
You know, that guy that was in that video or in all those videos, he's very enthusiastic, and I feel like that's needed for this, because I mean, I got pretty excited about it too.
But then learning that you can connect from one machine to another, and as if you're there, physically there,
Yeah.
it just adds a whole new dimension.
Yep.
To the capability of the terminal.
Crazy.
Kind of cool, huh? Cool. All right, you can stop sharing. Very cool stuff, man. So, I mean, this whole thing with Linux and the terminal and getting to, you know, we're going down a journey of learning about penetration testing, right? I can't wait for the next episode at this point. I mean, what's in store for the next one?
So we're going to be talking about the Linux file system and learning how to navigate that system.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you kind of learned a little bit just by using the ls command, but there's a whole lot more to it. What else are we going to be talking about?
Creating files and folders, editing files.
Which we did a little bit of.
Yeah. Searching for those files, viewing contents of a file, compressing files, which I don't think I got to yet.
No, you haven't gotten to that part yet.
Yeah.
But essentially, you'll be using the zip command.
Whoa. From
the command line.
That's compressing files, right?
Yeah.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. Yeah. Very cool. Well, I mean, if you guys like this content that we're showing you guys and showing you guys the resources of how to do these little things, buy us a cup of coffee, right? Just go to buymeacupofcoffee.com/theroadtocode. Is that right, Jonathan?
Yep.
Yeah. Very cool. All right. Well, until next time.
Peace out.